She stood in front of the mirror in her faded sundress, unable to believe that in just a few hours, she would become the wife of a man she had seen only twice. Her fingers trembled as she fixed her hair, not from fear, but because everything happening felt like a dream. The daughter of a small-town dairy farmer, and suddenly the wife of a millionaire who owned half the land in the county. The neighbors whispered that she had sold herself for money, but no one knew that behind her decision stood not only her own life, but the lives of her whole family. Her father was bedridden with a serious illness, farm debts were crushing them, and her little brother and sister asked every day if there would be dinner. The farm couldn't even afford a new tractor to plow the fields. Everything was falling apart before their eyes. And then he appeared, William Anderson, tall, lean, with silver hair, dressed in an expensive suit, and with such confidence in his voice that she wanted to hear him speak again and again. He arrived in his black car that smelled of leather and gasoline, and looked at her as if he saw not just a small-town girl, but the woman he had been searching for all his life. His proposal struck like lightning out of a clear sky. "Marry me," he said, looking straight into her eyes. "I will take care of your family." She didn't answer right away. That night she didn't sleep, staring at the ceiling and listening to her father's cough through the thin wall. In the morning, she said, yes. The wedding was simple, but the entire town came to watch the poor farm girl marry the old man everyone talked about. People said he owned houses in New York and even abroad, that he was a millionaire who could have anything he wanted. But for her, it wasn't about money. She walked down the aisle thinking only that her family would finally have enough to eat, that her father would get medicine, that her brother would be able to study in the city. After the wedding, they drove to his mansion on the edge of the forest. The house was huge with white columns and windows as tall as a man. The staff greeted them silently, bowing slightly and helping her with her coat. "Rest," he said. "Tonight you are the mistress of this house." She walked through the rooms, touching the heavy curtains, the gilded frames of paintings, the smooth marble windowsills. It felt as if she had stepped into a fairy tale, yet her heart still raced. She knew the true test would come that evening, their wedding night. She came down to dinner wearing a long dress, chosen by the maid. William sat at the massive table, drinking red wine and looking at her in a way that sent shivers down her spine. "You're beautiful," he said quietly. "Even more beautiful than I remembered." Her cheeks flushed, but she said nothing. After dinner, he rose, offered his hand, and led her upstairs. Her heart felt as if it would burst from her chest. She feared he would be rough or cold, that he had simply bought her like an expensive thing. But what happened next shook her to the core. He opened the bedroom door, and she froze. The room was enormous, with a high ceiling, soft lamplight, and a wide bed covered in snow-white silk sheets. At the foot of the bed was a fireplace, where the logs crackled and warm orange flames played on the walls. William helped her remove her jewelry and then, unexpectedly, sat down next to her and spoke softly, almost in a whisper. "I know you're afraid, and I don't want this night to be a trial for you." She stared at him, not understanding what he meant. "I'm 30 years older than you, and it matters to me that you are with me not just out of obligation. Tonight, I just want to talk." She didn't know what to say. A strange warmth spread through her chest. She had expected fear, pain, but instead felt relief. They sat by the fire, he poured her warm wine with honey, and for the first time in weeks, she felt able to relax. He told her stories from his youth, how he started as a tractor driver, saved money, built his business, survived betrayal from friends, and even bankruptcy. She listened, holding her breath. This man, whom everyone in town called a stingy old man, suddenly opened up as real and human. "I didn't marry you just to have an heir," he admitted. "I saw in you someone who could be my support. I don't need a doll for show. I need a mistress who can run all of this if something happens to me." His words cut deep into her memory. She suddenly realized that this house, this land, these people were now her responsibility. By midnight, they rose from their chairs. William kissed her on the forehead and said, "Sleep well. Tonight you are my wife, but tomorrow you will learn what it means to be the mistress of this place." And he went into the next room, leaving her alone. The night passed strangely. She couldn't sleep for a long time thinking about what had happened. Inside her, respect for this man began to grow, not just fear or gratitude for saving her family, but something far more complicated. In the morning, the maid woke her. "Mr. Anderson is waiting for you in the study." She dressed and went downstairs. William sat behind a massive desk, a stack of papers before him. "Today I'll show you what real work looks like," he said. "If you're ready." She nodded. They drove around his land, endless fields, barns, silos. He introduced her to the foreman, to the workers, explained how everything was organized. For the first time in her life, she felt like part of something big. But when they returned in the evening, a surprise awaited her. On the doorstep stood a woman, tall, beautiful, in an expensive coat, with an icy look. "You brought her here?" the stranger said without greeting. "To our house?" William frowned. "This is my house, and I brought my wife here." The woman gave the girl a look that made her shiver inside. She has no idea what she's gotten herself into, and neither do you. With those words, the stranger turned and slammed the door behind her. "Who was that?" the girl asked when they were alone. "My daughter," he replied heavily. "And she isn't happy that I married again." That night, the girl couldn't sleep for a long time. Her life was only just beginning, as she already felt a storm brewing ahead. The next day, the house was quiet, but the silence felt tense, like before a thunderstorm. The servants walked softly through the corridors, and the girl felt their eyes on her, some pitying, some judgmental. At breakfast, William was grim, barely speaking. "Don't mind yesterday," he said at last. "Mary has always had a temper." "But she hates me," slipped out of her mouth. He looked at her with a long, tired gaze. "It's hard for her to accept that I married again. She's convinced you came only for the money." The words stung. She wanted to protest, to tell him that she had married for the sake of her family, that she had never even thought about luxury. But the words stuck in her throat. That afternoon, she decided to walk through the house alone. The more rooms she opened, the stronger the feeling grew that the mansion was hiding a secret. On the third floor, she found a locked door. A servant passing by quickly averted his eyes. "What's in there?" she asked. "Just old storage," he answered shortly and hurried away. In the evening, returning to her room, she ran into Mary again. She stood by the window, smoking, and looked at her coldly. "Listen, farm girl," Mary said, blowing out smoke. "Don't think that just because you're my father's wife now, you get to run things here." "I'm not trying to," the girl replied quietly. "Oh, yes, you are," Mary snorted. "You're all the same. First you play the innocent, then you take everything you can from him." The words burned her. She turned and walked away, but her chest felt hot with hurt. That night, she couldn't take it anymore. She took the keys she had seen in her husband's study and went to the locked door. Her heart pounded so loudly, it seemed everyone in the house could hear it. The door opened with a soft creak. Inside was a dusty room filled with trunks and old wardrobes. In the corner stood a table with yellowed papers and photographs on it. She approached and picked up one of the photos. William was in it, young, standing next to a beautiful woman, a child in his arms. This must be his first wife, she thought. Under the photo lay a stack of letters. She didn't want to read someone else's correspondence, but her eyes accidentally fell on one postcard. It said, "I can never forgive you. You took everything from me. If I ever return, you will have to answer for this." A chill ran through her. Who had written this, and to whom was it addressed? She jumped when a voice sounded behind her. "You weren't supposed to come in here." Mary stood in the doorway, her face twisted with anger. "You really have no idea what you've walked into," she hissed. "Stay out of this, or you'll regret it." With those words, Mary slammed the door and left. That night, the girl didn't close her eyes. The words from the letter echoed in her head, and fear settled in her soul. What was William hiding? And why was his daughter so afraid of her discovering the truth? In the morning, she decided to ask her husband directly. At breakfast, gathering her courage, she said, "There's a locked room in the house. There are letters there. Who wrote them?" William froze, his gaze turning heavy. "Who showed you that room?" "No one. I found it myself." He was silent for a long time, then said, "Those are your mother-in-law's letters, my first wife's." "But there are threats in them." "She was sick." His voice sounded flat. "She died many years ago." He rose from the table and left, leaving her alone. But the girl felt he was hiding something. And the further time went, the more she realized her life in this house was tied not only to wealth and status, but to a secret that could change everything. That evening, guests once again gathered in the mansion. William had arranged a dinner for the managers and neighboring landowners to introduce them to his young wife. The girl tried to smile, but she felt as if she were on a stage. Dozens of eyes were on her, full of curiosity, envy, and judgment. Mary, sitting across from her, never missed a chance to sneer. "Do you even know how much this china set you're drinking from costs? I bet your hands are shaking. Careful, you might break it." The guests laughed. The girl blushed, but William abruptly cut his daughter off. "That's enough." Mary shot him a look full of fury, but fell silent. After dinner, he came up to his wife and said quietly, "Don't pay attention to her. She just needs time to get used to you." But the girl understood. It wasn't about time. Mary was truly set against her. Late one night, she heard a rustle in the hallway. She carefully opened the door and saw Mary's figure disappearing around the corner. Curiosity outweighed fear, and she followed. Mary went down to the basement. The girl quietly opened the door and saw her searching through crates and old furniture. "What are you doing here?" she couldn't help but ask. Mary jumped, turned around, and smirked coldly. "What about you? You think you're the only one allowed to dig through other people's secrets?" She stepped closer, staring straight into her eyes. "You know why I hate you? Because you took my mother's place." "I didn't want to," the girl tried to explain. "Want it or not, doesn't matter." Mary leaned toward her. "But if you think you can live peacefully in this house, you're wrong." With those words, she left, slamming the door. The girl stayed in the basement alone. In the corner, she noticed an old trunk Mary had apparently opened. Inside were papers, old contracts, land deeds, and a letter, very similar to the one she had seen in the locked room. "You can't hide from the past. When the time comes, the truth will surface." Her heart clenched. The next morning, she made up her mind to speak seriously with her husband. "William, I can't live in a house full of secrets," she said calmly but firmly. "If you want me to be the mistress here, I have to know everything." He was silent for a long time, then walked to the window. "All right," he said finally. "Tonight, I'll tell you the truth." She spent the whole day on edge. Mary didn't appear, but her angry gaze still burned in memory. That evening, William took her to the very room she had broken into. He sat opposite her and began to speak. "My first wife, Annabelle, was a beautiful woman, but she had a severe illness. She suffered from violent fits, could be cruel. I tried to save her, took her to doctors, but it all ended tragically." He fell silent, sighing heavily. "But who wrote those letters?" "She did." His voice turned hoarse. "She often blamed me, thought I had ruined her life. Those letters were her final words." He looked at her with tired eyes. "I didn't want you to know. I thought it would be easier for you that way." She stayed silent, trying to process what she had heard. Questions swirled in her head. If Annabelle had died in the fire, then who had slipped those letters into the basement trunk? And why was Mary acting like she knew even more? Late at night, on her way back to her room, she heard footsteps outside the door. Someone was standing in the hallway. She flung the door open, but no one was there. Only a sheet of paper lay on the floor, covered with hurried handwriting. "He's lying to you, and if you stay here, it will be too late." The girl didn't sleep a single minute that night. The words from the note echoed in her head like a bell. Who had left it? Mary? Or someone else? In the morning, she decided to confront Mary directly. She found her in the garden, smoking as she stared at the pond. "Was it you who left the note?" she asked, trying to sound confident. Mary smirked. "Finally, you've started asking the right questions." "What do you mean?" Mary crushed her cigarette and turned to face her. "You think my mother was insane? That's what my father told you, right?" "He said she was ill." "Ill?" Mary laughed bitterly. "She wasn't sick. She just knew too much." "What are you talking about?" Mary came closer, her eyes burning. "About the fact that the fire wasn't an accident, that my father wanted to get rid of her because she was in his way." The girl's heart tightened. "That's not true." "It is." Mary cut her off sharply. "I have proof. My mother left a diary." Mary pulled a small leather notebook from her coat pocket and handed it to her. The girl opened the first page. It was filled with uneven handwriting. "He told me life would be easier without me. I fear for myself and for Mary. If something happens to me, know that it was him." A chill ran down the girl's back. "Why didn't you show this before?" "Because he's powerful. Everyone is afraid of him." Mary clenched her fists. "But now I have you. You can stop him." That evening, the girl resolved to speak to William. She walked into his study and placed the diary on his desk. "Is this true?" Her voice trembled. William stared at the diary for a long time, then ran a tired hand over his face. "I didn't kill her," he said quietly. "But yes, we quarreled that night. She threatened to take Mary away, to take everything. I left the house, and when I came back, it was already on fire." He lifted his eyes to her. "I blame myself for not being there, but I didn't set the fire." She wanted to believe him, but doubt gnawed at her heart. At that moment, the door burst open and Mary came in. "Stop lying," she shouted. "You destroyed her and now you're trying to play the victim?" "Mary," William said wearily, "I loved your mother." "Lies," she screamed and snatched a candle from the mantel. She hurled it at the floor. The flame caught the carpet and fire flared up instantly. The girl jumped up, trying to put out the fire. William rushed to his daughter, gripping her shoulders. "Stop this! You'll burn the house down!" But Mary struggled, screaming as if she couldn't hear him. The girl grabbed her by the wrists and shouted, "Enough!" Mary froze, staring at her. "If you want the truth, we'll look for it together, but not like this." Mary breathed heavily, then collapsed to her knees and burst into tears. The fire was quickly extinguished. William sank into a chair, looking 10 years older. "I understand that you both have the right to know everything," he said quietly. "I'll show you the investigation files. Then you can decide for yourselves whether to believe me." The next day, the three of them drove into town, to the archives. The girl held Mary's hand. They were no longer enemies. The documents confirmed that the fire had been ruled an accident. The servants' testimonies stated that Annabelle had lit candles and left them unattended. Mary was silent for a long time, then said, "I hated you for so many years, and you were just miserable." William pulled his daughter into an embrace. The girl watched them, feeling something ease inside her. When they returned home, she entered the forbidden room for the first time without fear. Now she knew the truth and no longer dreaded the past. That evening, William came up to her. "You've changed this house," he said. "Because of you, Mary forgave me." He took her hand. "And now I want you to truly become the mistress here, not for money, for us." She smiled, and for the first time she felt that this house was truly hers. Later, Mary approached her in the garden. "You're stronger than I thought," she said quietly. "And maybe you really are what this house needs." They stood side by side, watching the sun set behind the trees. A new life lay ahead, not an easy one, but honest.